So we're behind the scenes shooting 2 podcasts in one night.
That's right.
Yay! But you only get to watch them one at a time. Too bad for you. Joshua Heston, Editor-in-Chief. Alejandro.
Review dos podcasts? Mr. Heston, dos?
Sí, dos podcast.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And Ethan's back.
Yep, I am.
And Josh Hong's in the corner.
Yep, down here.
Oh, this is the fun part.
Yeah.
I know. So much fun. And I just got to make sure that this is the first time we've done 2 in one shot. So this is hello. This is the I just got to make sure that I'm on the right article.
583.
583.
Yep.
583. We should do something really special for issue 600.
Confetti cannon.
Confetti cupcakes.
Launched out of confetti cannon.
Spring-loaded donuts.
Launched out of a hauled-out armadillo shell.
Oh.
How dare you say such things? Shut up, you stupid.
It would be hard to find one.
Oh, yes. So, ready to rock and roll?
Yep.
Are you ready?
Let's do this.
Are you ready? Welcome to the State of the Ozarks podcast. This is Josh Heston, Editor-in-Chief.
And this is Ethan Grubach.
And we're talking about our Ozarks.
Your community. And this episode of Been Thinking About has been brought to you by
Stafford's Barbershop and Shave Company, the place for men in downtown Branson.
Shepherd the Musical, rediscovering America's story.
And the Taney County Health Department, creating opportunities for healthy lives in our community. Good folks.
Yeah.
I said that last week too, but I mean it. They are good folks. And we're on iTunes.
That's right.
This is the first time you've been back that we're on iTunes.
I know, because we've gone there 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
Yeah, so
Yep.
the first week that I couldn't be here.
Yes. You've been gone,
Yes,
and now you're back.
I am.
And you didn't go too far away. You just had to work.
Yeah,
It wasn't like you were navigating the Amazon or.
I mean, depends on how you view it.
Depends on the Amazon.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I can always say that I'm navigating the Amazon because that just means I'm buying books. So, but it is a cold, rainy Ozark night.
Yes, it is.
Good night to eat chicken soup.
Which we did.
Yes, chicken and rice soup. It's always a party in the State of the Ozark studio for events like this. And, of course, we're talking about issue number 583.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and that brings up a point. A State of the Ozarks member asked us if we were still publishing.
What?
And, yeah. Well, their email had stopped receiving.
Oh, yeah.
And they didn't know whether or not we were publishing. The answer is yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we are publishing. In fact, we haven't missed a single issue consecutively in 11 years. So, generally speaking, as long as I'm not dead, we're publishing. And if I'm really good at setting up issues ahead of time, that actually at some point might mean that I would be dead and we would still continue publishing for at least a couple of weeks before somebody else took over. So, yes, State of the Ozarks is always coming out, and we are counting down to issue 600.
Yep, we're only 17?
Yeah.
17 away.
17 away. Countdown, we'll figure out when that is, and we'll have a big party.
Yeah.
I don't know what we're going to do. I think you were bringing up the possibility of a confetti cannon.
That's ideal for me, at least. But
Or if this is a podcast, so we could just have the sound effect of a confetti cannon.
yeah.
Not quite the same.
We could. I didn't say it had to be on podcast. I just said
We definitely
shoot
need
one off.
we need a giant confetti cannon.
Shooting. I
Shooting armadillos with a giant confetti cannon. Alejandro would like that for
Yeah.
individuals who are just listening and not watching. Alejandro is our mascot.
Yes.
Yes, he is a brass armadillo that my grandfather picked up on one of his trips to Peru.
Wow.
Seriously.
So he's like a Spanish-speaking.
He is a Spanish-speaking, he is a Peruvian armadillo representing the Ozarks because we are cross-cultural.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And this isn't cross-cultural, but what'd you think of the editorial this week?
Well, when I was reading through it, I got to the part about spider webs.
Yes.
And, I don't do spiders very well.
You don't do spiders very well, no.
But it reminded me of when I worked down at the trout dock for a summer.
Yes.
And one of my jobs in the morning when I'd get in was to go through with a broom and knock down the spider webs.
Fair enough.
The reason I was given that job was because I hate spiders.
Hate spiders.
Yeah.
So true.
So we'd go through, and then, there'd be times where they'd start to crawl up the broom, so I'd have to just dunk the broom in the lake. And the best time to see it was early in the morning because the dew would stick.
And the dew would stick on there, yeah. And it's about the only time that you can see them.
Yeah.
Spider webs, the bane of our existence.
Because even after I knock them down, I'd still go back through during the day and walk right into one.
Yep, that is exactly how that works. When I wrote that, I had not thought about that in terms of your feelings about spiders. I'm ambivalent towards spiders. They really don't bother me, one way or the other. Snakes, on the other hand, I do not like at all.
Not a huge fan.
Yeah, but spider webs really don't typically bother me one way or the other. Actually, they really don't. Me and your dad speaking of spiders, found a tarantula out on J Highway on the way to Mincy on a cold fall afternoon. So we brought it home in a freezer box and I photographed it.
Ew, I'm glad I was not told that. Yeah, during the falls when they tend to move down south.
Yeah, the tarantulas, big Ozark tarantulas. People don't realize that necessarily if they're not familiar with the Ozarks, that we have tarantula migrations. It's quite impressive. I named this one Sheila, but unfortunately it had a short lifespan.
Yeah, because I remember there was one evening I was out in the field behind the house, with a friend of mine. We were playing catch, and then we noticed under the streetlight this little thing that from a distance looked like a piece of trash just, rolling down the hill. And we go to look at it, and it's a pretty decent sized tarantula. And so I instinctively bolt the other direction.
Yes.
Whereas he has a baseball bat and it's like tapping around each side of it, trying to aggravate it.
Don't aggravate the poor animal.
I told him if he got bit, I'm not calling the ambulance.
They're I don't think they're terribly dangerous in terms of their bite.
No.
I think they're kind of cute, but
Yeah.
that's just me. I shouldn't tell this, but do you remember that time I played that April Fool's trick joke on you? You were still in high school. That it was April 1st, and I just started staring intently at your hat. And then you're like, what are you looking at? And I'm like, there's a spider on your hat.
I vaguely remember, but I don't at the same time.
It was really mean of me. It was very mean. You were not very old.
Did I scream like a girl?
You did not scream like a girl, but you disassociated yourself from your hat in record time. I think the thing I was most proud about was the fact that I managed to pull it off because I just was like staring at your hat. And it was mean. Yeah. I'll just say that right now. But it was fun, and it worked. And now you'll have to get back at me. So yeah, I don't like snakes. Anyway, I respect snakes, but I personally don't like them. And snakes are something we have a decent number of them in the Ozarks.
Yeah, I remember
various kinds.
Being younger, back behind the church, there's a creek that only runs 2 weeks out of the year. But there was one day it was running, and so me and my sisters and I think a couple other kids from the church were going down there, just throw rocks or whatever.
Yeah.
And we cut through this one path to get there, and I was the last of the group because I'm the youngest and the smallest, and everyone wanted to leave me behind.
That's why we bonded. Because that was actually my experience as well. But anyway.
But all of a sudden I'm walking through and I noticed in the ground in the pile of leaves was something that didn't quite match the rest of it. And I looked and it was a pretty decent sized snake. I couldn't tell you what kind it was because as soon as I saw it, I shouted at the others and ran back up the hill.
Yeah, we've got some good snake articles on State of the Ozarks. And as we get a little further in the spring, we'll start republishing those for springtime. Our one and only negative review on Facebook, on the State of the Ozarks Facebook page, is because of an article that your dad wrote on snakes, on cottonmouths.
Yeah, he doesn't like cottonmouths.
No, and I think really interesting. We'll get into that later, but actually some of the best photos that I've got is of a juvenile rat snake is in Smyrna.
In the basement.
In the basement. I was leaving stuff. I was supposed to leave stuff in the refrigerator on late.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the only one there, and I go in, and there's a snake staring at me on the way to the basement in the stairwell. And my first inclination was to bolt. My second inclination was I have to do something with the stuff that I need to put in the refrigerator. And my third inclination was, do I have my camera in my truck? And I did. I had my camera in my truck. Ran and got it, and the weirdest thing, I'm scared of snakes and I'm scared of heights, but if I am looking through the camera lens, I am not afraid of either one of them. So I got some really great pictures from like really close range.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time I didn't even know what the species was. And I didn't know it might have been venomous for all I knew. But I was staring at it through the camera lens, so I didn't care. And then fortunately afterwards I was able to identify it, and it was a juvenile rat snake. And not only are they not venomous, but they're good because they eat rats,
Yeah.
and mice as well. You know.
Of course, that basement's kind of creepy as it is.
True. It's been there a long time.
Yeah.
And of course, the church has been there for a very long time. The building.
Longer than the basement.
Yeah, much longer than the basement. The basement was probably built in the 1970s.
Yeah.
Older than me, but not by much. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the church was built in the 1890s and moved to its present location about 1909.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's been there a long time. But none of that has anything to do with our topics at hand, which includes an article on springs. Ozark Springs.
Yes.
They're so beautiful. And you've had some personal experience. You have family memories.
So every year they do a family reunion at Merrimack Springs
Yes.
Park.
Mm-hmm.
And
which is a beautiful place.
Yes, it is. It's one that I've become pretty familiar with because we would be in a pavilion at the one area of the park, and then me and my sisters and a couple of my cousins would decide that we got bored and would walk the rest of the park, and so we crossed the stream there right by the mouth of the spring and all kinds of stuff. And my favorite part of the area was the mine, actually.
Yeah. Then there's a lot of history there.
Yeah.
A lot of history. It's a huge spring. Before I came to the Ozarks, I didn't know springs were real. I really didn't. And the photos and the content for this particular article all comes from a trip that your dad and I took in 2009, in the spring of 2009, or February of 2009. And we called it the Mill Run. We were going to look for historic mills in the Ozarks, and historic mills are directly associated with springs, because that's the water that was used to turn the mill wheels. And it was an amazing experience for me, because these springs, of course the mills are beautiful, the ones that remain, but the springs are really incredibly enchanting. They're very unique. It was a magical experience for me, because where I came from, water is muddy, and it flows in rivers or it sits in ponds, and all of a sudden you have these tens of thousands or hundreds of millions of cubic feet of water that are bubbling out or gushing out of a rock in the ground.
And to me it seems pretty common.
Yeah.
The trail that goes around Merrimack Spring kind of goes through this like mountains or like capes or like there's rocks hanging over the trail.
Yes.
And so
very deep overhang.
We'd like to go. There's a little path that you could take. You weren't supposed to, but you could go up the side of the hill there. And go over the overhang, and we'd kind of sit on there.
That's nice. I bet. I've not been up there. I did dangle myself over the side of the springs at Big Spring, which is down in Shannon County. You haven't been there.
I haven't been there.
It's pretty. It's a double. The deep wells for the springs is double, and it's really amazing. Of course, Turner Spring, the one and only. And there's plenty of springs in Arkansas, but the only Arkansas spring that I have a photo of is actually one on the way up the mountain to where your grandparents.
That's what I was wondering, because I saw the picture and it looked like one that we used to stop and we would get bottles of water and refill it.
Yes.
At that spring.
It's still drinkable.
Yeah.
And yes, down in Welcome Home, Arkansas,
Welcome
right?
Home, yep, which is about 10 minutes up the mountain from Marshall,
Right.
which is about 30 minutes outside of Harrison. So.
Yeah, it's a ways.
Yeah.
And beautiful country.
Oh, yeah.
That was the day that, actually your dad and I, it was another road trip, but had stopped in, visited a little bit with your grandmother, and then your dad took me out to the cemetery with your grandfather.
Oh, yeah, and that's a beautiful place.
Amazing overlook, and it was also in February, and it was almost the coldest I have ever been. The temperature was hovering just a little below freezing, but there was a really, really wet north wind, blowing a gale, and overcast, no sun in sight. Bits of snow coming down, but just though the air felt like it was just absolutely soaking wet, and I like to froze up there. But got some amazing pictures. Beautiful, beautiful location, and I want to see it when it's warm and sunny.
Yeah, yeah.
And see how far I can actually see. But coming down the mountain, and you drop elevation, and the temperature spiked like 15 degrees.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And then we got down there, and we stopped at that spring that people still fill up the water, and got some photos. That's your dad's old Jeep in the background of that picture. And it was a cool trip. Of course, there's Turner Spring, Blue Spring, and there's 2 Blue Springs. I've got 2 pictures of Blue Spring on there. Blue Spring on the Jack's Fork, which seriously looks like the river in Lord of the Rings. Greer's Spring. Greer's Spring is amazing. We'll get some articles out on that. But is it an immense hike to get to Greer Spring from the parking lot, little gravel parking lot, because you hike down the mountain to get there. And along the way, there are these giant blocks of dolomite stone that essentially that the mountain has weathered away and left the blocks of dolomite. But the blocks, the way that the dolomite weathers down is they weather down into cubes. And they're big cubes. And the crazy thing is that as you walk through it, it looks like you're walking through ruins. It seriously looks like there used to be a building made out of stone, like some sort of ancient civilization that you've stumbled upon. Of course, it's a naturally occurring phenomenon, but amazing. And Greer there's so much water coming out of Greer. It doubles, or at least nearly doubles, the size of the 11-point river where it converges with the river.
Oh, wow.
So it's massive. It's a little scary just because there's so much energy.
Yeah, a lot of water going through there.
Yes. Yeah. And the old mill, I need to check. They were doing some historic reconstruction or restoration of the old mill that's up on top of the hill, which is amazing. Falling Springs Mill looks like a cracker box. And it really does. The pictures, of course, are online. You can check them out. And Blue Spring, the big Blue Spring, not the one on Jack's Fork, but the Blue Spring, is unbelievably beautiful. That's the feature image at the very top, and an amazing blue. It's uncanny. It's one of those things. So many times on the mill run, I felt like I had walked into Middle Earth. I was positive I had walked into Middle Earth. It was an amazing experience. Of course, this has nothing to do with Middle Earth, but you mentioned the iron mines.
Yeah.
And those iron mines date back a long time, but they were critical during the Civil War.
Yeah, that's where a lot of iron came out of. Was that?
Was Merrimack. And in addition to that, the Union ironclad fleet that conquered the Mississippi was built in St. Louis from iron brought in from Merrimack. So that.
Yeah, and you can still. I mean, if you can go walk down in the mine.
Yes.
Area, and you can still pick up chunks of iron ore.
Yeah.
Through there, you're not supposed to take it with you, but
right. But you can pick it up.
You can pick it up.
It's amazing though, and I think down here, way down here in Taney County, we're very far removed from St. Louis, but one of the things that really struck me about Merrimack is that the lasting infrastructure that was developed out there. That area, Merrimack Springs, has been developed settled and developed since the Civil War. And, you know, some of the buildings that are still out there, even like the little trout, the building that's by the trout that looks like it's a 1920s little gingerbread building.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
Oh, yeah.
odd things that you do not see down here.
Or, you know, advertisements for the cavern,
Yes.
you know, painted on barn roofs.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Merrimack Caverns, not to be confused with Merrimack Springs.
Yeah, that's a different.
Two distinct locations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, back in the day, that was a big thing. Paint people's barns
Yeah.
like billboards. So, good times. And then, of course, there's that article in Sassafras.
Yeah.
Have you ever had sassafras tea?
No.
I have not either. I want some. I think that would be really good. It's supposed to thin your blood. Apparently, if you drink too much of it, it might be a carcinogen.
What's that mean?
Cancer causing.
Oh.
So there was like an official announcement saying don't drink sassafras tea. Although, you know, lots of people apparently have drunk sassafras tea. You dig up the small saplings in the spring and make the tea out of the roots.
Mm.
And I can't, having never had it, I don't know one way or the other. I do know that they used to dye Easter eggs in the tea because it will turn them, it's a pink color. And they would make pink Easter eggs from that. And of course the trees themselves are beautiful and the wood is valuable. The wood can be turned into anything. Plus, I mean, it's just the tree's beautiful and one of my favorites. And if you take sassafras leaves and scrunch them up, they smell like lemon.
Really?
Yep, absolutely. Try it.
Had no idea.
Yep, good stuff. It's just too bad they don't have like beautiful fruit. So that's that. Of course, the recipe this week is raw apple cake.
Yeah.
Made with real apples. Apparently they're raw, but they're not raw after you bake the cake. So.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
it's kind of a lie.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's a figment of its own imagination. So, to learn more, visit us on stateoftheozarks.net.
Sign up for the State of the Ozarks weekly email.
It's free. Like State of the Ozarks on Facebook.
Follow at Soto Media on Twitter.
Subscribe to Soto Media on YouTube.
And follow us on Instagram at State of the Ozarks.
Thank you for listening to Been Thinking About, the State of the Ozarks podcast with Josh.
And Ethan.
And this is our Ozarks.
Your community.